everybody, welcome to the Spill the OT YouTube channel. My name is Robin, and if you are new here, I have a podcast. It's called Spill the OT, where I talk about all things occupational therapy. I also talk a little bit about physical therapy, speech pathology, and I interview different therapists who are out in the world practicing, and they just share their story. So if you are an OT and you want to come on, I would love to have you. And if you are a prospective student or an OT student already, you might want to check it out just to hear people's stories of what it's like practicing, what they have to say about salary, productivity, what a typical day looks like. We talk about all those details in the podcast. Check it out wherever you listen to your podcasts. And today we were talking about occupational therapists. Everybody asks me, how much can I expect to make as an occupational therapist? And you would think that this would be easy, but it's a little more complicated than you may think. So you might be wondering, why is this so complicated? It just depends on so many factors. So occupational therapists can work in a wide variety of settings, like nurses or doctors or physical therapists. So some occupational therapists might work in early intervention. In some states, early intervention pays really low, like the state that I live in. In some states, early intervention pays really well, and you could easily make in the 60s, 70s, even 80s or more $1,000 a year. In the state that I live in, to work full-time in early intervention will make you about $45,000, maybe $50,000 a year as a new grad. And I would say $50,000 would be on the higher end of that spectrum. So today I'm going to be listing a little bit of information that I found at otsalary.com. I highly recommend, if you are a therapist, go on and check it out there. The information itself is incredible. So people will put in where they live, how many years they've worked as a therapist, what type of degree they have. Is it a bachelor's, master's, doctorate? They'll list how many hours they're working. They list if they're having a 401k package or pension package or any other benefits. They list the productivity requirements for that facility. There's a ton of information on this website. Is it presented in a way that's conducive to my heart and my soul? Frick no, it's really hard to read. But is the information itself really beneficial? Absolutely. So if you don't mind kind of digging and looking a little bit for the information, you can end up searching for the area that you want to practice in. So if you know that you want to live in Texas and that's the only state you ever intend on practicing in, then you can search in the Excel spreadsheet, look for Texas, and then you can narrow down your search that way. And you can look for a therapist, how many years experience, what setting are they in, and then discover what a typical salary you could expect in that area. So today I'm just going to talk about my own experiences, because if I were to tackle what people are making all across the country, this video will be 20 minutes long at least. So I'm going to go with just my area. I live in New England, and I prefer not to state exactly where, but if you have more questions, you can message me on Instagram at spill_the_OT, and I'll gladly share that information with you. And I've applied to a ton of jobs. So many jobs, I don't even know how to keep track. So I live in the suburbs. I am not somebody that wants to commute into the actual city in my region, because the traffic here is just really high, and I'm not interested in commuting, and we're not moving from our house, which is in the suburbs. So these rates might be lower than somebody who's working directly in the city. So these rates are probably lower than what I could get if I were to work in that metropolitan area. And I'm gonna try and tailor this to what a new grad would make. I can't speak exactly what that would look like now, because I've been practicing for about 8 years, but I have a good friend who works in this area, and I'll just talk about what she's been offered as a new grad, and we'll go from there. So as far as early intervention, like I said, a new grad in this area could expect to make about $42,000 to $50,000 full-time. That would include maybe 2 weeks vacation. You could probably negotiate a little bit on the vacation amount, and a benefits package. And that's with a master's degree. So in my opinion, I would say that that's pretty low. You can also work per visit, which I think would probably earn you about $45 to $50 per visit. And you might be able to negotiate getting gas mileage reimbursement. But keep in mind, if your client were to cancel, or if the family was not responsive or didn't answer the door, or if you were held there for a long period of time, that's going to eat away at some of your income, because you might be spending more time traveling or getting to that person's house or calling them to make sure that they're actually going to commit to the session, because you may or may not be paid if that session were to get canceled. so in my area, for a full-time position in a skilled nursing facility, you could probably expect to make between $35 to $40 as a new grad OT, and that would be for a full-time position, so 32 hours or more. If you to work per diem, then I think that could be much higher at 45 to probably 50, maybe $55 an hour as a per diem. If you're not sure what per diem means, no problem. I didn't know what any of these words meant when I first started looking, but per diem means, or PRN, they might call it that as well, and that means you're not getting any benefits. So if you're still on your parents' insurance, or if you are married and are getting your insurance through another person, then it's kind of like a no frills package, but you earn more money. So somebody who might be making $35 an hour with benefits and guaranteed hours, compared to somebody who might be making $50 an hour, who might get cut last minute. So per diem, depending on the facility, they might say, hey, we need you tomorrow, and then you go there, the census is low, and they say, actually, we only need you for 2 hours today, and you were anticipating getting an 8-hour day, and you're only getting paid for the 2 hours that you were actually there to work. So it's a little bit riskier, but high pay, high reward. Depends on how you look at it. If you're working in an inpatient rehab here, I think you could expect to make around $55,000 to $65,000 as a new grad, and that would depend on the actual facility. There's one larger facility in this area, and they're more prestigious. So they actually offer less money, which sounds counterintuitive, but they know that many people want to work there for the name, and they know that their reputation is so strong that they can offer a little bit of a lower package because this area is flooded, and they know that many people are going to be attracted to them naturally, and they don't have to offer that higher incentive in order to get you to work there. So that's one thing to consider, but it looks great on your resume. You'll probably learn a ton. You'll probably be surrounded by therapists who are really thoughtful and creative and willing to help you learn and really enjoy their job, compared to if you're getting a really high pay package somewhere else where people might be possibly less motivated or burned out. And again, these are all assumptions, but it's just a lot of things to consider when you're applying or thinking about doing your first job. Okay, so in a school setting, I would say if you are a new grad, you could be making probably $48,000 to $55,000 during your first year. And the way it works in my state is there's typically a pay scale for the town. It's non-negotiable. It depends on how many years of experience you have. So if you were a teacher and OT is your second career, you'll be higher on that pay package automatically because you have a lot of experience working in the schools. If you are a new grad, you're 23, 24, and you haven't had that experience yet, then you're going to be put as the step one, which makes sense. You're new, and it's not a bad thing. All of us have been new at one point. So you just are at a earlier level and going to be paid a little bit less in that setting. So one thing to consider, that in a school, you are only working 9 months out of the year. And typically if there's an ESY, an extended school year, then you're going to be offered a stipend to participate in that ESY program. So you could be getting another couple of $1,000s in order to participate in that program. So your salary could be a little bit higher. You also have more time. You have vacations and you have your summers off. So if you work per diem in a skilled nursing facility or somewhere else as an OT, then you could really increase your pay package for the year as a whole because you're given all that extra time to earn extra in another area, and you could keep your skills sharp in another area. Hospital setting, I don't know a ton. I've never actually worked directly in an acute care hospital. I applied, they said the pay package was $45 an hour for a per diem. And then I applied to a mental health program in the area. Again, it was in an acute psychiatric unit, so acute care hospital, and that was $41 an hour. I applied for a HIPAA therapy program a while back, so working with horses and kids on the horses, and that made about $30 an hour, and that was on the high end. The initial pay package was $24, and then the highest they could possibly do was $30 an hour. But I mean, you're playing with horses and you're playing with kids on the horses, so it's fine. Home health, I don't have numbers for this, but I know that you can make a lot of money doing home health. I think that typically home health is the highest paid, so you could probably make a lot of money as a home health therapist. I don't have the numbers to compare it to, but I have a friend that worked in a different state and she made $80,000 as a new grad. If you do decide to go that approach, I would recommend that you work for a company probably as a salaried employee. That way they're going to invest training in you, because if you go in per diem, they're going to just expect you to know what to do and go out there and be on your own. But if you're salary, they're going to want to really help you and make sure that you have a good experience because they want to keep you. You're part of their team. Not that you're not part of the team if you do per diem, but you're just more solidified if you are salary, in my opinion. All of this is my opinion. Okay, so that was a ton of information. Basically, being an occupational therapist, the pay is variable. That's the biggest takeaway. When I first wanted to become an OT, I Googled how much do therapists make, and it was about $85,000 that popped up. I thought, sold, great. I have never come close to making that amount, but I'm attracted to the lower paying areas in OT. I'm attracted to pediatrics. In a pediatric outpatient clinic, you could probably expect to make about $30, maybe $40 an hour, depending on where you work and if you're salary or if you're contractor. If you're a contractor, you could expect that rate to be more like a $45 to $50 an hour, depending on the clinic. And sometimes if you are a contractor, you will have to be a 1099 contractor rather than just a per diem, which means you are responsible for taking out your own taxes, and it just adds a little bit of extra responsibility on your end. You will probably have to get an accountant, which will cost you a little bit more money. So it's small details like that that you factor in as you're thinking about your pay packages. So overall, as a new grad, what do I think is a typical amount to expect? I would say if you're working full-time, I would expect to be making at least $55,000 to about $65,000 as a new grad during your first year. Again, this will fluctuate depending on the area you live in the country. If you're in California, I would expect that to be significantly higher. Same with New York, and I think same with Texas. I feel like Texas pays pretty high as well. Other areas of the country, I'm not familiar with them quite as much, but I know that even though I live in a place that costs a lot of money, the average pay here is on the lower end, and I could make a lot more money if I were to work in Texas than I am working here. So I hope that this was helpful. If you liked it, please subscribe to this channel, give it the thumbs up if you liked it, and comment down below and tell me where you are in the OT process. Are you a practicing therapist? Are you an OT student? Are you a prospective student? I'd love to know what you're up to and what your goals are for the future. I'd also love to know what you want to learn more of about this channel. This YouTube channel is very fluid, so if there's an area that you want to learn more about, please comment below and let me know, and I'll do some more videos. Have a great day.